Hey everyone, welcome to this explainer. We are jumping right into the architectural blueprint of an incredibly ambitious literary project today. We're going to deconstruct the Operational Resilience series concept paper put together by Dave Nichols and David Moskowitz. And look, this isn't just an outline for a single book. No, it's a meticulously crafted blueprint for an entire educational fictional universe. If you're into structured learning and you know the fascinating mechanics behind the scenes, you are absolutely going to love the sheer scale of what they're attempting to build here.
Okay, let's dive right into this. We're going to map out how we'll deconstruct this massive 7-part universe, starting off with one story, 7 lenses, then looking at the perfect case company. After that, we'll unpack the master beat sheet structure, the bookending technique, and parallel drafting. And finally, we'll hit some of the crucial unanswered questions still sitting on the author's desks.
Section 1. One story, 7 lenses. The foundational concept.
So the core premise here. It is absolutely fascinating. Nichols and Moskowitz aren't writing some dry textbook. They're actually building a shared story narrative that does double duty as a rigorous practitioner framework. It's all built around the minimum viable capability, or MVC. The entire series revolves around 7 of these core capabilities, things like govern, assure, and plan, and each one is stewarded by one of the 7 protagonists. But here's the real kicker. These capabilities are interdependent by design, meaning the protagonists literally need each other to succeed in the plot, exactly like real-world departments do.
It's kind of like Rashomon meets cybersecurity. The authors are designing one shared external plot, but it's witnessed and acted upon from 7 totally different vantage points. This multiple perspective storytelling means every single book carries the events its specific protagonist is actually present for. And when the characters finally come together in full cast scenes, well, those act as the fixed joints holding all 7 timelines perfectly together.
It's truly epic in scale. In the concept paper, they note this is heavily inspired by Orson Scott Card's ensemble structure for quest narratives, describing it as a group bound by a single external goal, the fellowship of capabilities. You can totally relate this massive literary undertaking to familiar pop culture anchors. Think Frodo and the Fellowship. But here, the group itself acts as a collective protagonist on a quest for organizational survival.
Moving on to Section 2. The perfect case company, high-stakes world building.
So, $500 million. That's the revenue of our proposed setting. The authors really needed to invent a setting where 7 different practitioner audiences could clearly see their own daily high-stress jobs reflected. So they landed on a major U.S. headquartered manufacturer, floating working names like Ashford Precision, Kestrel Industrial, or maybe Halvorsen Manufacturing. And it's not just domestic. This company has divisions spanning the UK, Australia, and an Asia-Pacific division built specifically around custom chip manufacturing.
Now here's where it gets really smart. They structured the company's business into 2 distinct lines to maximize relevance. On one side, you've got the defense line, sitting right in the defense industrial base, dealing with intense CMMC and DFARS exposure, plus that custom chip manufacturing. On the other side, the commercial line, producing industrial control equipment, dealing with circular reporting, SEC disclosures, and a whole messy patchwork of state privacy laws. This brilliant structural split basically guarantees the series speaks to a worldwide audience, not just U.S. defense contractors, by forcing the characters to handle dual-threat regulatory pressures at the exact same time.
What's really wild about this is how real it is. The timeline pressure in the story is drawn directly from what is actually happening in the real world right now, as of mid-2026. For example, the U.S. defense line has to deal with the Department of War's CMMC Phase 2 suspension, while the UK division handles DEFstand 05138, and the commercial line braces for CISA finalizing the circular reporting rule. It literally takes regulatory compliance, which, let's be honest, can be a bit dry, and turns it into an urgent, high-stakes thriller.
All right, Section 3, Master Beat Sheet Structure, the structural spine.
So how do you manage all that complexity and plot across 7 different books without the whole thing just collapsing in on itself? Well, you borrow from Hollywood. The authors use screenwriting techniques, specifically the famous Save the Cat master beat sheet. But here's the twist. It's one shared sequence of externally anchored plot events on the exact same timeline mapped across all 7 books simultaneously. What changes book to book isn't the plot itself. The disaster still happens at the exact same time. Instead, what changes is what each protagonist knows, what they desperately want, and what they risk at each individual beat.
And this master structure builds out into a really precise blueprint detailing how each book stands on its own. Every MVC, which is pulled directly from the DVMS MVCs model, speaks to 3 tiers of practitioners: leadership, management, and operational. So Book 1, Govern, speaks to everyone from the board director down to the policy analyst. Book 2, Assure, is for the CISO down to the internal auditor. This proves each book delivers standalone value, echoing the really successful ITIL 2011 series model. You definitely don't have to read all 7 to get immense practical value for your specific job role.
Section 4. The bookending technique, solving the core tension.
Now, providing that standalone value creates a massive structural problem. Think about it. How do you write a chapter that richly rewards someone reading all 7 books, but still works perfectly for someone reading just 1? They solve this with an ingenious technique called bookending. Essentially, every chapter is split. The front end carries the serialized, cross-book identical dialogue and shared timelines. That's the canon of the universe. But the back end of the chapter, that delivers protagonist-specific reflection and standalone practical takeaways. It completely lightens the burden of continuity for the writers, because the back end is this flexible, extractable reflection that can easily become future courseware. It's just a phenomenally smart way to serve 2 completely different types of readers at the exact same time.
Section 5. Parallel Drafting Explain. The Production Engine.
All this incredible planning brings us to an immense logistical challenge. I mean, actually sitting down and writing 180 to 220,000 words across 7 intersecting novels. You simply can't write a project like this 1 book at a time. So, they're using a highly unusual production engine. Step 1. The authors draft 1 single story beat across all 7 protagonist perspectives simultaneously. Step 2. They update what they call a continuity ledger with any newly surfaced facts. And step 3, they advance together to the next story beat cohort. This preserves referential integrity. It ensures that cross-book dialogue remains perfectly consistent while it's fresh in the author's minds, rather than, trying to retroactively remember what a character said 3 books ago.
And this continuity ledger, it's basically a running fact list, completely distinct from the master storyboard. It gets updated after each beat cohort to track names, physical details, and load-bearing plot points. This matters so much because it prevents the writers from relying on pure memory across 7 books and months of drafting. When an unexpected physical detail naturally pops up in character A's chapter, the ledger ensures it's perfectly consistent when character B walks into the very same room 2 beats later.
Section 6. Crucial unanswered questions, the lingering decisions.
It's a masterpiece of architectural planning for sure, but before this blueprint becomes a reality, the creators still have some lingering, high-stakes decisions to make that will dictate the final flow of the series. First up, is the case company public or privately held? Making it public unlocks those heavy SEC disclosure plot threads. Second, who is the emotional center of the story? Does it rotate by book, or is one character the true anchor? Third, does the upcoming thriving 2nd edition act as a direct prequel? Fourth, what's the exact footprint of the expansion into the 5I or 5 Eyes countries? And finally, what about publication sequencing?
And that last point brings us to a really fascinating production consequence. Because of that parallel drafting method we just looked at, all 7 books will be finished at the exact same time. None is finished first. So, I'll leave you with this question. If you were producing this groundbreaking educational series, would you drop all 7 books simultaneously for a massive binge-reading event? Or would you stagger them to build momentum and let readers digest each capability? It's a huge strategic choice. I hope this explainer gave you a deep appreciation for the structured mechanics behind this ambitious storytelling project. Thanks so much for joining me, and keep exploring.